Hello and welcome to another manga spotlight. So the series we are spotlighting today is Phantom Seer. It is written by Togo Goto and illustrated by Kento Matsura. I am not familiar with any of Goto's previous stuff that they've written. However, I am familiar with a series that Matsura was involved in illustrating, and that series is Tokyo Shinobi Squad. It's actually a series that I've been debating about doing a spotlight on. Best way I can describe it would be Cyberpunk Naruto. So if that seems like something that you would like to hear more about, just let me know. But yeah, he did the illustrations for that, and it's amazing. His artwork. His artwork is freaking beautiful. I love it. And Phantom Seer was a series. I say was because it unfortunately was canceled. But it was a series that ran on Weekly Shonen Jump from August 31st, 2020 to April 5th, 2021. It is a series that kind of just spotlights how cutthroat the manga industry can be, especially Weekly Shonen Jump. If you're not putting out an immediate banger, the chances of you surviving for more than a couple months just drastically drop. And this series, unfortunately, did not survive the axe. So why am I spotlighting it? Because despite being canceled, it's still a pretty damn good series. So the basic premise of Phantom Seer. Something strange and mysterious occurs. You should go to him. They say he has psychic powers, but convincing him to actually help deal with fierce phantoms may be a challenge. And the he that they are referring to is our main character, Iori Katanagi. Iori is a shaman, and shamans are people who fight phantoms. Phantoms are exactly what they sound like. They're basically ghosts, spirits. Best way to describe them would be picture curses from Jujutsu Kaisen, and you pretty much have a phantom. And Iori is a really good shaman. However, unlike your typical shonen protagonist who wants to be the very best, Iori just wants to be normal. He doesn't want to be a shaman. He hates being a shaman. He starts off the series very kind of lazy and unmotivated. He doesn't want to really help anybody. But he continues being a shaman for two reasons. One, because his sister, who is like the most powerful shaman in the world, pretty much forces him to. And two, because there is a specific phantom that he wants to hunt down and destroy for killing someone that Iori held dear to him. And so he cannot quit being a shaman until this specific phantom is no more. Yeah, our series follows Iori a lot. He has tamed a phantom called Onyoki, who is like the king of shadows, which gives Iori the power over shadows. And Iori can summon Onyoki for a certain amount of time. Basically, the longer that Onyoki is in our world, the more crazy and harder to control he becomes. So Iori tries to not summon him unless he absolutely has to. And when he does, he tries to end battles as quickly as possible so he can recall Onyoki. We're not actually introduced to Iori from the get-go. We're actually introduced to our second main character. Her name is Riku Aibetsu. And Riku is a girl who loves to help people. Her parents are police officers and nurses, and so it's within her blood to like help other people. And she has this mysterious power or this mysterious ability to sense danger when it's about to happen. Like the first time that we see her use these abilities, her and her friend are walking down the school hallway when she grabs her friend to stop her, and just ahead of her, the windows of the hallway shatter and glass just starts spraying everywhere. And if her friend had kept walking, her friend would have been cut up by glass. So Riku is able to sense danger when it's about to happen. And Iori gets a message from his sister that, hey, there's something up with this Riku girl. Call her out and let's see what's going on. So Iori calls her out and discovers that there's a ghost that's following Riku. And as the series continues, we discover that Riku is a beckoning hand. And what that means is a beckoning hand is someone that attracts phantoms, someone that draws phantoms to them like a magnet. And so Iori is forced to team up with Riku because he believes, well, if this girl keeps attracting phantoms, maybe eventually she'll attract the phantom that I'm hunting down. And eventually, not long into the series, Riku is able to develop her own abilities. Her abilities is basically anyone who's watched Bleach. She kind of has the same ability as Orihime. She's able to do like purification bubbles. She's kind of able to create shields to protect people. She's basically a support class. And so we've kind of followed just these two characters for a while until eventually we get our third main character. Because it's a shonen series. You can't just have two main characters. You got to have a group of three, right? Two guys, one girl. That's your typical shonen group. And our third character is Kenma Oigawa. And Kenma is the complete opposite of Iori. While Iori is kind of like unmotivated, lazy, somewhat obnoxious, Kenma is stoic. He takes his job as a shaman very seriously. He has tamed Tengus. So his ability is that he's able to manipulate sound waves using his three Tengus. And his Tengus are basically his brothers. Not biologically his brothers, but they were all raised together as kids. So, yeah, seeing him interact with his Tengu brothers is pretty adorable at times, especially later on in the series. Kenma comes across as kind of annoying at first, but then eventually he becomes okay. He's basically like your Sasuke character, your Aki character. I don't want to say Megami, because Megami is pretty easygoing from the get-go. He starts off as Sasuke and then eventually becomes Megami. If anyone's familiar with Naruto and Jujutsu Kaisen. And then, of course, we get other characters that play a part. I mentioned one character earlier, Iori's sister. Iori's sister is Yayoi Katanagi. And Yayoi is the most powerful shaman ever. Or at least that's the way she's kind of portrayed in this series. Right? She's basically OP. She's untouchable. She's the Gojo of this series. In fact, she even has her eyes covered with bandages, and she always has a smile on her face, even when terrible things are going down. So she kind of comes across as a little like uneasy to be around. We don't really get to see too much of what her abilities are. We do get a little bit of it, but yeah, she's just super overpowered. And our final character that we really get to spend a lot of time with would be Chihiro Kurose. He is the young star of the shaman world. He's like the new up-and-comer. A lot of people think he's going to be like the next greatest shaman. While everyone else is kind of like teenagers, he's the adult in the group. He's a constant flirt. He reminds me a bit of Sanji from One Piece. And his power is that he has pyrokinetic abilities. He can control fire, but he can't create fire. So he needs some kind of source. And that source usually comes in the form of a lighter. And after the series was canceled, we actually had a special Phantom Seer one-shot. And that one-shot actually follows Chihiro, and we get more of his backstory. We get a little bit of it from the main run, but we get more details in the one-shot. His backstory is basically that he was a shaman with his lover, and his lover is the one that's used the lighter that he always carries. It used to belong to her. And she was murdered. And the reason why she was murdered was because she was with a group of other shamans and they abandoned her. When things got tough, they left her behind and she got overpowered and killed. And so now he's on this quest to destroy shamans. One of the phantoms that he's trying to destroy is this phantom named Senjudoji. It is the same phantom that Iori is trying to destroy. So Senjudoji is a phantom that takes on the form of a little girl. She's very sadistic. She takes pleasure in killing people, especially shamans. Her current goal right now, though, is hunting down all the beckoning hands. As I mentioned earlier, a beckoning hand is someone who attracts phantoms. And that's what Senjudoji's goal is to hunt down all the beckoning hands. And Chihiro wants to kill Senjudoji because Senjudoji was involved in the death of his lover. Iori wants to kill Senjudoji because Senjudoji killed someone that Iori held very dear to his heart. Someone that he was assigned to protect, a former beckoning hand. And because of his failure, he let her die at the hands of Senjudoji. And so now he can't quit being a shaman until he hunts her down and destroys her. So Senjudoji plays the part of the main villain for this entire series. And there you go. There's like the basic gist of the characters and their goals and powers. And the series pretty much just follows Iori and Riku for a little while as they're hunting down phantoms. It kind of starts off similar to how Jujutsu Kaisen starts off, where we don't have like long arcs, but just kind of like monster of the week sort of things. And then eventually Kenma gets involved, and then the series starts following like longer arcs where we have them trying to take down Senjudoji, trying to figure out clues about where Senjudoji is, and eventually discovering her plan to try to collect all the beckoning hands and destroy them. I do believe that the series got ruined by executive meddling. I'm not 100% sure about that, but one issue that I had with Phantom Seer was that it starts off a certain way. And then a few chapters in, it feels like it turns into something completely different. So it starts off kind of like as a monster of the week, and then eventually it turns into a okay, we got to worry about evil shamans, we got to worry about powerful phantoms, and then we got this whole Senjudoji and what's her deal, and even some of the character interactions kind of change. So, for example, Iori starts off as kind of like lazy and unmotivated, but that soon drops. Riku starts off as someone who can just sense when phantoms are nearby and kind of attracts them to her. And then eventually she gains her own powers, like I mentioned earlier. And she gains her powers way too quick. She literally gets a one chapter training montage, and the next time we see her, she has full control over her powers. There's no like break, there's no period where we have her struggling, there's no like actual full training montage. It's just not even a full chapter, it's just parts of a chapter where we just see her training, and then she unlocks her abilities and she has full control over them. So that kind of like bugged me. So yeah, it feels like the suits at Weekly Shonen Jump realized that the series wasn't getting the hits that they wanted, and so they got involved and tried to change it to be more of a shonen cliche in the hopes of grabbing more readers. And then eventually it just got to the point where like, all right, this series isn't getting the views that we want, so let's just cancel it. And yeah, it got canceled at the 30th chapter. And it's kind of a shame. The reason why I wanted to spotlight this was because I feel like this is one of those series that just needed to find its identity. For example, one of my favorite TV shows of all time is Seinfeld. Seinfeld is awesome, it's amazing. It's considered one of the greatest sitcoms ever. And even as someone who's a huge fan of Seinfeld, I can admit that the first two seasons of Seinfeld are just absolutely terrible, especially the first season. It's just god awful. And the thing is that it's not until around the third season that it starts to kind of find its identity a little bit. And the fourth season is when it really perfects it. And from then on out, it's just nothing but banger after banger episodes. And I feel like there's a lot of manga out there that kind of have this problem where they start off and they might be a little cliche. Like, this is something that we've seen before. Ayashimon, for example, is one of those. Black Torch is another example. Even Phantom Seer, I would say, is one of them. But there's something there. While it might be a little bit cliche, there's potential, and it's just hidden there. And it just needs some time to find its identity, to find its own mark. And once it does, I think it could have been an absolute banger. But it's just never given time to find that. And that's a problem that we find not just in manga, but even TV shows and stuff nowadays. I mean, Seinfeld was given 3 seasons to find its groove. Whereas here, like nowadays, if you don't have a banger from the get-go, your show is pretty much canceled. Unless it's a show that has a bunch of like messages that studios wanna promote, then usually they last for longer than they deserve. But the same happens in the manga world where it feels like you gotta come out with an instant banger. And if you don't, then you gotta make huge changes really, really quickly. Otherwise, you're pretty much gonna get canceled. I've seen so many series that have just gone down that path. I'm like, okay, there's something here. So it's a bit cliche. I've seen this before. Not really doing anything new, but there's something here. It just needs to find that one piece that it's missing, but it never gets the chance. And that's Phantom Seer for me. Phantom Seer, it has all the ingredients to be a huge hit. It has amazing artwork, has pretty cool, interesting world building. It has characters that are either relatable or sympathetic, or characters that you can easily follow. Iori, like I said, he starts off not the greatest of heroes, in my opinion. Some people might like him from the get go. I didn't. Eventually, though, he becomes a more likable character, or at least someone that I can easily follow. Riku is a good character right from the get go. Pieces are there, and it was just missing that one thing. And I feel like it was maybe heading towards finding it. And then we introduced all these new changes, and it pretty much lost its identity. And since then, it just wasn't long for the world. Like, once I started noticing all the changes, I realized, okay, this series is going to get axed pretty soon. And eventually it did. And it's just one of those series that it could have been the next hit. Like, I honestly believe it could have been the next Jujutsu Kaisen. And it just wasn't long for the world, unfortunately. It just didn't find that one missing piece. And yeah, it's kind of a shame. So that's why I'm spotlighting it. I do believe that there's a lot of potential here that went missing. It's still a good series. I still recommend checking it out. And I'll leave a link to where you can read it down in the description below. But there you go. There's Phantom Seer. A series that just it kind of hurts to talk about it being canceled and stuff, because it had promise. It had so much promise, and just something about it just wasn't clicking with the Japanese fans. But there you go. There's Phantom Seer. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope to see you next time. If you got any recommendations for stuff I should check out, let me know. And yeah, if you want to see a spotlight on Tokyo Shinobi Squad, the Cyberpunk Naruto series, just let me know. But there you go. Hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. So what'd you guys think of that video? I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe. Hit that bell for a notification. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you didn't enjoy the video, thank you for watching it this far. And I hope the next video is more to your liking. Feel free to check out the playlist that you guys see. And I hope to see you guys next time. Later.